The New York Times recently published an article with 100 of its best books of the 21st century. Its editors were helped by 504 professional book people to create this list. I want to go over that list and tell you what books I have read and what I think about them. Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg. Today, I want to talk about the New York Times 100 Best Books of the 21st Century. I looked them over, I have gathered up a list of the ones that I have read, and I have graded them on what I actually think about the books. I have read 35 out of the 100, sort of. There is kind of an exception in there. So my overall impression was rather blasé. It's a list of books. Some of them I liked. Most of them I'm really rather indifferent about. And a lot of them I just have not read. And even more of them I really have no desire to read whatsoever, just because they were published in the New York Times top 100 list. And I have to be thinking about myself, saying, how am I in relation to modern publishing? Because this is what this list is about. It's about modern and contemporary publishing. Am I in tune with this contemporary publishing? Or am I sort of an outsider and just not fitting in? That's a curious thing to think about. But first, before I get there, let me tell you the books that I have read. And as I said, I'm going to grade them A, B, C, or D. I am not going to talk about the books that I have not read because there are way too many. And some of these books I read a long time ago. So if you're asking me about the details of the book, I may be a little foggy. This is an impression of what I think about the book now, not what I thought about it when I first read it. So here is the ones that I have read. 100, Tree of Smoke by Denis Johnson, a Vietnam War novel. I grade it a B. 98, Bel Canto by Ann Patchett, about a group who are having a little concert and they get taken over by terrorists. A B. Number 95, Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. This is the second book in her trilogy about Cornwall, and I grade it a B. 93, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I rank this a C. It is sort of a science fiction novel about life after a pandemic and Shakespeare. I just was not impressed with this book, as some people were really impressed by this book. 91, The Human Stain by Philip Roth. I grant this an A. A lot of the details are foggy, but I remember after I finished listening to this as an audiobook, how much I really enjoyed it. 90, The Sympathizer by Viet Nguyen. I also give this an A. This is about a Vietnam man who came to America and became a spy of sorts. Really good. 84, The Emperor of All Maladies by Siddhartha Mukherjee. I grant this a B, and this is about the history of cancer. I think it's important for everyone to know more about cancer. 82, Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor, translated by Sophie Hughes. I grant this a C. I kind of wanted to give it a D, but I just don't remember enough about it. I read it on a vacation to Mexico on my Kindle, and I just remember not being all that impressed. 78, Septology by Jan Foss, translated by Damien Searles. I grant this a B. Conditionally. I said there was sort of an exception. In English, the Septology is published in 3 volumes, and I have only read volume 1. So I am not ranking the entire Septology. I'm just ranking the first volume. I may want to give it an A when I finish it. It was really good, but I have to finish the book before I give it a full rating. So it has a tentative B for now. 75, Exit West by Mohsin Hamid, a B. This is about a terrorist explaining his way of thinking. 74, Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. I'm giving this a D, again, probably conditionally, because technically this is a DNF. I was reading this for a book group. It is a group of short stories, and I read most of the short stories, but sort of petered out at the end, not really being engaged with this book too much. 73, The Passage of Power by Robert Caro. I give this book an A. It is part of his biography of Lyndon Baines Johnson, which I think is some of the most important nonfiction ever written. Now, this is a series that started in the 20th century, and this is one of his forays that were published in the 21st century, which is probably why other books are not included on this list. Excellent biography, however you want to look at it. 72, Second-Hand Time by Svetlana Alexandrovich, translated by Bela Sitsevich. I grant this an A. This is a collection of stories about life after the fall of the Soviet Union, and I was utterly riveted about how people thought after the Soviet Union fell, and kind of their nostalgia for that terrible regime. 69, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. I grant this a B. This is all about racism in the United States, and I think this is a very important subject that more people should know about. The book itself was okay, but I think its subject matter elevates it to a higher level. 65, The Plot Against America by Philip Roth. I give this an A. I'm a little fond of that mid-century misogynist author, but this is an alternative history about what would have happened if Lindbergh became president and started an anti-Semitic regime in the United States, sort of in line with Nazi Germany. Really important that people read books like this nowadays to understand what our country could have become or may become in the future. 59, Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. I give this a B. I read this a long time ago. A lot of the details are foggy, but this is about a character who I believe would be nowadays called intersex. Can't quite remember all the details, but it's a pretty good book. 57, Nickel and Dimed by Barbara Einreich. I give this one a D. This is actually an extremely important subject about how workers are not getting paid enough. However, her methodology as a journalist, because she tried to survive on the wages of these low-income earners. Her big mistake was she insisted on living on her own, which I think sorts of taints her outcome because she's guaranteeing herself a failure. It would have been more realistic if she had taken up this cause and gotten roommates to live with. Not something I would ever want to do, but it would have made a better book. Again, this book is extremely important because it does show how we treat our low-income earners and how we should treat them better. I just don't like her methodology. 56, Flamethrowers by Rachel Kushner. I grant this a C. I read this when it was a new book, and to be honest, I think there's some motor racing in the desert, and that's about all I can remember. So only a C. 52, Train Dreams by Denis Johnson. Again, this is a B. This is about a man who loses his family to a fire and loses his way in life. I rather enjoyed it, but it's not onto the superb level. 51, Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. I grant this a C. This is about the possibilities in life, exploring different options and different paths you can take. It's a really great concept, only I just didn't find it all that engaging. 49, The Vegetarian by Han Kang, translated by Deborah Smith. I grant this a C. I had really high hopes when I picked this up, but again, maybe it's just the translation from Korean and the completely different culture that I could not quite jive with. I was just not engaged with this book as much as I had hoped to be. Persepolis by Marjan Strapapi. I grant this is an A. This is a graphic memoir of a young girl growing up in Iran as it was turning into a theocracy. I really enjoyed this one. It is the most recent book that I've read on this list, and I highly recommend that people pick up this graphic memoir. 42, A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. I give this a B. Maybe it should have been an A, but I just don't remember enough about this book to give it an A. That's why I'm only giving it a B. It is about Bob Marley and his attempted murder. 38, The Savage Detectives by Robert Bolaño, translated by Natasha Weimer. I grant this a B. Again, if I had read this more recently, I might have given it an A, but it's been too long, and since it does not stick out that much in my mind, I think it's probably just a B. Number 29, The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt. I grant this an A. It is an experience to read. It's a little bit about the film, Kurosawa's The Seven Samurai, and a genius. Really, check it out if you like postmodern fiction. Number 26, Atonement by Ian McQuain. B. It's a good novel. Maybe a C novel. Maybe I'm giving him just a little too much credit in my mind, but certainly a B, maybe a C. It is a post-World War II novel, if I remember correctly. The fact that I can't remember the details means definitely a B, maybe even a C. 24, The Overstory by Richard Powers. I grant this a C. It is about what we are doing to our planet and how we should be treating this planet better in a fictionalized novel form. Unfortunately, the details, again, sort of slip out of my brain, and if I cannot remember it that well, maybe it is not such a great book. Number 22, Behind the Beautiful Forevers by Catherine Boo. This is a B. This is about life in poverty in India. And it is just rather devastating, the lack that these people live with, just how poor they are. And it opens your eyes to see just what kind of benefits we have in our country right now. Number 18, Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. I give this a B. This is about Abraham Lincoln grieving over the death of his son, and his son in an afterlife. This is more of the Buddhist Bardo afterlife rather than the Christian afterlife. And it is told in tiny little vignettes. There are over 200 of these vignettes, I believe, and each one is a different narrator. In the audiobook version, they got over 200 narrators to read this book. It's an experience. Number 16, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. This is an A. This is about two Jewish boys writing a superhero comic before World War II. I had a blast with it. 13, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I give this one a D. I actually really enjoy Cormac McCarthy's earlier novels, but he started going downhill with No Country for Old Men and The Road. I think he had set his eyes too much on Hollywood and not on literature. And people describe this as very graphic and very grim, which it is, but it's just not a very good book. Number 9, Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a C. This is Ishiguro, who's a literary author who dabbles in a little bit of science fiction. And for that, I really kind of praise him. But when I read this book, I came across thinking, well, it's just okay. Number 6, 2666 by Roberto Bolaño, translated by Natasha Weimer. This is definitely an A book. This is actually about 5 novellas put together to form a novel. There is coherent themes among these novellas. I won't go too far into it, but it's about a mysterious German author and the horrible murders that were occurring in Mexico around the time the author was writing this book. It is and contains some of the truly grimmest writing you will ever encounter, and it is relentless, and it's based in reality. Number 3, Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, a B. Again, this is about Cromwell. I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I fail to understand the extreme praise people give this. Don't mistake me, I liked it. I actually read this twice. Once I listened to the audiobook, and then I read my Kindle version, getting ready to read the whole trilogy, and I've only read the first 2 books in the trilogy. A solid B. Number 1, My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, translated by Ann Goldstein. Solid C. I listened to the audiobook. I enjoy it. It's historical, about 2 women who are friends in Italy. And really, it's just okay. I fail to see the greatness that other readers see in it. And that's the 35 that I have read off this list. Again, as a whole, I'm not truly impressed. There are some good books on this list. Don't mistake me. But most of them, I could not care less about. Again, maybe that is me. Maybe that is that I'm not quite jiving with current contemporary mainstream writing. And it's not them, it's me. Well, anyway, that's what I've read. That's what I think about this list. I would like to see other lists created, because this list, I don't think, captures the entirety of writing in the world right now. It's very heavily focused on mainstream, we'll say, literary fiction, with some nonfiction thrown in. A little bit of genre fiction with Philip Roth, and his foray into science fiction with The Plot Against America, but does not carry mystery novels, does not carry true science fiction novels, no mystery, no horror. It's just very mainstream. And maybe that is part of it too, is that as I've gotten older, I'm getting away from the mainstream and looking for other options. Anyway, there will be a complete list of the entire 100 books in the description of this video. A lot of links to the New York Times are behind a paywall, so you can't get in, but at least in the description of this video, you'll be able to look over this list and see what you have read, and or if there are any books that you might want to read. I have a few books that I marked out as want to read, and that would be 62, 1004 by Ben Lerner, 50, Trust by Hernan Diaz, 46, The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, 30, Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward, mostly because I've seen a recent review saying this is linked to Faulkner's As I Lay Dying. 37, The Years by Annie Ernaux, translated by Alison L. Strayer. 28, Cloud Atlas by David Michael. 10, Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. 8, Austerlitz by W.G. Sebold, translated by Athena Bell. The Known World by Edward P. Jones. And 2, The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkinson. So those are my TBR books out of this list. The rest, honestly, I'll just let them pass me by unless there's some special occasion that will influence me to pick them up. So thank you for watching and keep on reading.